Well, hello and how are you? Hey, this here Shenandoah Briscoe. This there be May. I'm sorry, May the 15th. That means this here is blog number 105. 105, that is. I'm gonna tell you. I was getting a whole lot of response there off my range of motion routine. I noticed that I got a lot more responses there. And then I also got quite a few responses yesterday when I included the picture of the picture of picture of the jack. So therefore I got a few responses there. So what I think I'm going to do, I think is what it is because I posted them to other people's pages, and so maybe I will do that. Maybe I will find a topic from a different page that somebody has thrown up there, and I'll go ahead and start my conversation on that topic. And then that way, I'll get more hits because I'll throw it back on their page and say that this inspired my conversation here on the good old chat today. Uh, As a matter of fact, that one yesterday, uh, I had somebody talking about how they were how they used to fling parts of their daddy's parts around the basement and stuff like that, and flinging nuts and bolts at kids walking on the street. Well, I tell you what, that kind of brings me back to a story my dad used to talk. Now they used to make mortars and out of batteries, and what they would do is they'd take some cherry bomb, which is a high-powered firecracker. It's a round one, and they would toss that there cherry bomb in the bottom of a pipe, a little steel pipe, and then they'd drop that D-sized battery down there on top of it, and then whenever that cherry bomb would go off, they'd have to bury that pipe in the ground somewhat. And then whenever that cherry bomb would go off, it would launch that battery. Well, they had there was a cantankerous type old man down the street, and he had a metal roof. And they had a couple of spotters would go up on a roof adjacent, well, about 3 blocks away. They'd be about 3 blocks away, I guess. And they'd set that pipe in the ground, and the spotters would go up on another roof, and they would look, and they would have walkie-talkies in their hands, basically like a military operation. Now, I'm telling you, I'm looking down, so I keep looking down like this. I don't want to look down like that. I really want to look up here so that you can see my face. Now, it drives me nuts that I have to look up here because I'm looking up at a dot, and I was actually looking at my face a second ago. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, what I was talking about was the fact that they would launch a battery, and if it missed the house, then they would wait to see if the guy came out. Well, if the guy didn't come out, then apparently they had missed the house. So what they would do was they could pretty much see where it went. So they would just tell them to lower the pipe or raise the pipe, whichever the case may be, until they had zoomed in on the house. So this guy had an old metal roof, and then and they could hit right in the corner, which is their objective target. And they would try to hit right in the corner of the metal roof where the battery would hit in the corner and drop down, and then go down the hit in the gutter. It drop into a corner of the frame, and then it rolled down the corner of the frame and hit into the gutter, and it would be lined up directly for the gutter drain. And so it would fall out all the way down to the bottom of the gutter drain, and that way they could launch batteries over onto this guy's house from 3 blocks away, and he'd come out looking around like, what's going on, didn't know any better. So and then they'd wait for him to go back in the house, and then they'd launch another one. So that kind of reminded me when she was talking about all that there stuff, tossing tools around the basement. Yeah. So anyway, I hope her daddy's not watching this video. But Dad, hey, it's a little late. It's a little late. But yeah, you were talking about things getting away with stuff back when we were kids, and now that stuff we can't couldn't get away with it now. If we were parents now, the parents' kids would be drug off to the orphanage, and we'd be drug off to jail if the kids were trying to do stuff that we used to do. Well, that's kind of right, but the only problem there is because the school systems done took control away from us. They want your kid to come into school, and they want them to mention whether you got a knife, whether you've got a gun in your house. They want to know if you've ever spanked that child, because that's child abuse. If you've ever hit the child, it's child abuse. So my thing here is you better set your children straight on the way up. You start when they're youngin', and you let them know what a spanking is. All right. That being said, you never have to give them a spanking. You just ask them, do you think you deserve a spanking? Now that right there will get that child more heartache than getting the actual spanking itself. Because I tell you what, being a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, I know what I'm talking about. My daughter, God bless her little soul, she's not dead by any means. I just meant because she's such a darling. Anyway, my daughter used to every now and again, whenever I was up and amble, I guess she was about 4 whenever I ended up in my accident. So prior to the age of 4, she knew what a swat on the butt from Daddy's heavy hand was. Now it wasn't Daddy's heavy hand; it was just Daddy's big hand, and she knew what a swat on the butt from Daddy was. But she also realized that it wasn't the swat on the butt that really was the issue. It was the fact that she had upset Daddy enough that he would have to spank her, and Daddy wasn't upset mean-wise. He was upset feelings hurt-wise, and she knew that. And you have to relay that. You have to relay the fact that that you have a little disappointment in your child, and that it's really bothers you to have to spank that child. Because, well, like I said, okay. Now we're talking psychological abuse. Okay, so what? I'm saying if you have your child and they're under the impression that it is going to break your heart to have to give them a spanking, then they will respect whatever it is you tell them to do, and they will know better whenever you say, I don't want you doing this. They will respect that because they don't want to hurt your feelings, and they don't want to do anything against you. But you have to remember, spare the rod, spoil the child, which means you don't always have to spank the child, like I'm saying. Up until 4 years old, I think after my accident, I spanked my daughter 1 time, maybe 2 times. And do you know what a spanking from Dad is like when you're a quadriplegic? Well, let's see. You raise your hand up about that high, and you drop it. And that's about what a spanking is. Okay, now, do you think that hurt? No. it was not physically abusive. Did she cry? Yes. And do you know why she cried? Because it hurt Daddy's feelings to have to do it in the first place. Now, twice, 2 times after I was in the wheelchair, I had to spank her. That was it. And this girl is 22 years old, going to be 22 this. No, I guess she's 22 already. She's 22 years old, and she's is she 22? She might be 23. I don't know how old she is. She's an old kid. I'm going to catch flack from that. I know I am, not knowing how old your child is. Doggone me. I don't know what year she was born. Okay, her brother is 21, and so that makes her 24. I guess she's 24. Wow. Anyway, this is a 24-year-old girl. She grew up. She knows right from wrong, and she done it with a dad who couldn't put physical punishment to her at all, and now she's a good grown-up girl, and her little brother, who got to stay with me during the summertime, he learned. Now I only had him for 2 years. Now, before my accident. Now I didn't get a chance to really give him any kind of a spanking. He didn't know what a spanking from Dad really was. Now, of course, his sister filled him in on that, and she said, you know, if Daddy spanks you, it's not, you know, it's not going to hurt, because he can't hurt us. It's physically impossible for Daddy to spank us and hurt us. So, what you have to realize is you disappointed Daddy. And if you disappointed Daddy, then, you know, that's not good. So anyway, this is my thing. If you can teach your child early enough that a spanking is more than physical abuse, you do not need to give a spanking. You don't need to slap a child in the face because God provided another place. That would be the bottom end. All right, that being said, the other thing about it is that, like I said, spare the rod, spoil the child. I didn't have to give my kids spankings. They knew what a spanking was. Now, here's the other thing. If you cannot control your child by time out, or by, if you take your child to a store and they're screaming and hollering and putting up some sort of a fuss, and you can't give them a stern look and say, stop it, then you're doing something wrong at home. Now, what you need to be able to do is, at home, give that child a swat on the butt. Now, when you give that child a swat on the butt, and it's probably too late, because once they're teenagers, you can't go back and do it. But if you give that child a swat on the butt, and they know what a spanking is, then all you have to remember is that is available to you as a backup. If nothing else works, use a spanking. That's what it's there for. You don't have to use the spanking if you can control your child in other ways. But if you can't control your child, spank their little butt. And don't do it when you're mad. Just wait until you've calmed down. Bring them to you. Say, hey, this is what you're being spanked for. Spank them. Tell them that it isn't the fact that you're spanking them because you want to spank them. You're spanking them because they need to learn a lesson. And once they've learned that lesson, they won't do it again. And that's just like God and sin. Once you've confessed a sin to God, then don't do the sin again. Because otherwise you're just doing exactly what your child would do if they kept doing the same punishable event over and over again. So if your child goes out and plays in the street and you don't want them playing in the street, spank their little butt and they won't go out and play in the street. Now, tell them it's for your own good. It's not the fact that I wanted to spank you. It's the fact that I don't want to see you get ran over by a car. And so therefore, then they won't play in the street. If they play in the street, what do? You spank them again. They will soon get the idea that they are not supposed to play in the street. Okay, 2 times, that'll be sufficient. They won't play in the street. You'll guarantee it. They'll watch. They'll see whatever's going on. You see them heading out in the street, and you say, "Hey, what did I tell you?" And they'll know. They'll know better than to go out into the street. But remember, it started with that spanking, and that spanking now is just a verbal, don't do it, because they know that spanking is back there and available. Sorry, didn't want to get off on the tangent of the spanking today, but hey, it jumped up in my mind, and there we go. Spare the rod to spoil the child. Alrighty then, hey, my time is up. I'm going to have to let you go. This is Shenandoah Briscoe saying hello and how are you? You know that God loves you, and so do I. So we'll check you next time. Tune in tomorrow and have a blessed day. All right, I thank you.